The Extra Flugzeugbau EA300 is a two-seat aerobatic monoplane capable of unlimited category competition. It was designed in 1987 by Walter Extra, a German aerobatic pilot, and built by Extra Flugzeugbau. Design of the Extra 300 was based on the Extra 230, an early 1980s monoplane having a wing made of wood. The Extra 300 has a welded steel tube fuselage covered in aluminium and fabric. The midset wing has a carbon fiber composite spar and carbon composite skins. A symmetrical airfoil mounted at a zero angle of incidence provides equal performance in both upright and inverted flight. The landing gear is of a fixed taildragger type with composite main legs and fiberglass wheel pants. The powerplant is a fuel-injected Lycoming AEIO-540 which produces 300 horsepower. The first two-seat Extra 300 made its maiden flight in the 6th of May 1988 with German certification following on 16th of May 1990. The single-seat Extra 300S first flew on the 4th of March 1992. The Extra 300 is stressed for plus or minus 10 G with one person on board and plus or minus 8 G with two. Some Extra 300s are certified in the experimental category of the US, while others are certified in the aerobatic category. The Extra 300L has the Lycoming 540, and it's the two-seat aircraft, but with a low-mounted wing and a shorter fuselage. The L standing for low-mounted wing. The aircraft have been more aircraft of this type have been produced than any other model. Its span was reduced from 7.9 to 7.3 meters. Improved ailerons boast the 300L's roll rate to 400 degrees per second. All 300Ls are fully certified under FAA and European Joint Aviation Authority's regulations. The 300LP, P standing for performance, is a reduced weight version of the 300L, redesigned for better performance in competitions and air shows. The 330SX was a custom development of the 300S with a wide chord rudder, a larger elevator, and more powerful Lycoming 580 power plant, producing 330 HPs. Some 300Ss were sold with a bigger tail of the 300SX, 300SC. And the 300SC has the Lycoming 580 engine, which improved roll rate and made snap rolls easier. It was specifically designed for the unlimited category competition, and it is the only single-seat aircraft currently being produced by Extra. The 330LE is a single-seat aircraft powered by an electric engine made by Siemens, delivering 260 kilowatts for 50 kilograms of weight. On Thursday, 23rd of March 2017, the Extra 330LE set a new speed record, which at Dilsgass-Schwarzheide Airport in Germany. The electric aircraft reached a top speed of around 340 kilometers per hour over a distance of 3 kilometers. And on Friday, March 24th, the Extra 330LE gave another premier performance by becoming the world's first electric aircraft to tow a glider into the sky. So that's a little bit background to the type, and credit is due to Wikipedia and Flightline Weekly for this info. Now on to the unboxing. So this is the unboxing vid for the Extra 300L 330LC by Brengun in 1/72 scale. So this is a light sports aerobatic aircraft. So lovely cover image of the aircraft in an American serial chucking itself around the sky as they're designed to. And on the other reverse side you've got the American color scheme, a German color scheme, and a mention of the a Polish scheme. Nice simple colours, nice clean finishes. So this is not going to be the kind of aircraft you're going to be jumping in to do heavy weathering on. It's not going to have oil stains, it's not going to have really pronounced panel lines, rivets, and all the other stuff. This is a nice, clean, polished aircraft, well looked after. So, small box. This isn't a hugely complex kit, and we'll take a look at what's in the box. So, start off with the instructions. Simple sprues call out. You have 2 sprues and 1 canopy out on its own. As always, construction begins with a cockpit. This is a tandem seat version of this particular aircraft. Most of the images I seem to have the pilot in the back cockpit for some reason. So you have seats, and in this case the control sticks almost become part of the seats. Rudder pedals. Now a photo etch set for this kit gives you metal rudder pedal, gives you photo etch rudder pedals, and I believe a photo etch instrument panel. The counterbalance weights. Spatted wheels. Now something I don't quite like is that the wheels and spats are combined into one. I would rather those be separate, but that's just me. I mean, if you paint them up, my concern is that the wheel merges into the spats, and that I don't like visually. So you might have to do a little bit of scribing to create a delineation between the wheel and the spat. Engine coving radiator going in there. Again, this is a tail sitter, so you're not going to need any nose weights on this. And big canopy on this, so that cockpit is going to be very visible, and really have to do some research on the cockpit schemes. Again, a separate photo etch set does include seat belts. Maybe worth getting, maybe not. I think you can do reasonable reproduction with tape, but that's down to the modeler. Again, nice simple construction there. Instrument panel going in, or the a bit as a cockpit, as the fuselage sides come together. Then the undercarriage mounting. I can see this being tricky to get the angle right on. This is a sort of area where problems can arise, so keeping the aircraft square, keeping the wheels perpendicular to the undersurface of the wing. That's going to be a bit of a tricky fit. I can anticipate that. Flipping over, you've got the counterbalances, and now it's interesting. It shows here at this stage to remove the intakes depending upon the scheme you're using, whereas that kind of work takes a bit more cutting and scribing and should really be earlier on in the build. That I don't, having that step when you've got the aircraft assembled, and it's easier to do work like that when you've got the fuselage halves separate. So that's a bit off that it's in at that stage. Then we move over to these color schemes. Now, something looking at this printing, I don't think this is supposed to be brown here. There's been a printing error. I would say that that's the base for the red, because nowhere is that called up, and I didn't see that in any reference photos. So nice red scheme. This masking, unfortunately, this isn't supplied as decals, which I think is a bit annoying. So if you're going to go for the Polish and German schemes, this striked marking here is going to be a little bit tricky. It's going to take a bit of work because these are very sharp ends. Likewise here, and that's what puts me off this scheme. I'm not saying it's not doable, I'm not saying it's an attractive scheme. I think it's certainly, and with the big old water aviation. That's a lovely, I love marking like that. I love the sports look. Simpler scheme is certainly with the blue. Again, they seem to have had issue with what is supposed to be blue. And the long fuselage decals. This is going to be the easiest scheme of the two to paint by a considerable margin. And so I think it's good that with a model like this, you can come to the end and decide towards that. I still think that's a nice scheme, but there is something about that one that makes it just pop. So I don't even know yet what I'm doing. So that's the decals. And that's the instructions. Now let's take a look. Sorry, that's the instructions. Now let's take a look at the sprues. So the kit comes with 2 sprues and the canopy. Now the canopy, when I opened this box, was floating separately. Thing you have to do if you get this kit, put a canopy in a bag, put tape on the bag, because this is going to be not having any sprue to hold it on. This is going to could get lost, damaged, scratched way too easily, and I didn't like it. It was just rubbing on the sprues alone, which means good chance for it to be scratched. Maybe application of Johnson's Clear on this, but whatever you do, separate out the canopy, bag it, protect it. It's a big canopy for a small aeroplane, and so your cockpit is going to be really visible, and I think it's relatively easy to make this one with a canopy open as well. So let's take a look at the fuselage halves, or the main sprue. So 2 fuselage halves, nice recessed panel lines, nothing too excessive. Remember, this is a very simple aircraft. Internal structural detail, which is good to see. Again, look at reference photos for what this should be. Different customers may have different internal colors, different seat colors. Instrument panel will paint out quite easily. Nice recessed instruments, so you could really make them pop with a black wash. I am not seeing a little bit of flash on here, and I think that's something that you are going to have to check out. The seats have been molded as one, so you've got that bridging piece to cut out, but there is a hint of flash on this model, but nothing too excessive. I'm not seeing signs of sink marks where they're going to show up. 1 3-bladed prop, that's going to have to take careful cleaning up on the prop trailing edges. I can certainly see that standing out if you don't clean it up. As I said, these combined molded wheels with their spats I'm not too keen on, but once it's painted and it's partly obscured by the fuselage, if you're doing it just as a standalone sat on its gear, it's not going to be an issue. And doesn't take too much fine scribing with a needle in a pin vise to create that separation, that delineation between the two. So not too much to mention there. I don't see anything on this that's going to be too many issues. It's fairly recent kit, so fit should be good and not create problems. Second sprue with the wing and tail plane. These are simple, practically one-piece wings. There's no real panel lines except for the massive ailerons. So you're really, throwing this thing in some impressive rolls. What's nice about that is if you do the more complex color scheme, there's going to, and you're painting red over white, with the absence of panel lines, you're going to, the chances of bleed through are relatively low. So that's going to make the flashy color scheme easier to paint. It's a butt joint onto the fuselage, as I can see, so I think there's a care has to be taken semi-butt joint, but certainly care will have to be taken with the strength of the joint and the correct anhydral, dehydral, or neutrality. And there's also engine part and fuselage bulkhead on here as well. Not really seeing any flash. Now, I notice on a lot of the aircraft they have a little horizon indicator on the wingtips, and that is another photo etch metal part. Photo etch set is available at Hannon's. I think the aircraft looks okay without it, but it's quite a prominent feature out on the wingtips of a lot of sports aeroplanes to help a pilot assess his attitude, look outside of the cockpit, look outside of the canopy, and have some indication of the horizon on the side to help with the aerobatic maneuvers. And they are quite prominent, but they aren't part of this kit. Another edition of this kit may include it. And I am in two minds, but a photo etch set nearly doubles the cost of this kit. It's only a 12 or 15 quid kit. Well, okay, it increases the cost of the kit by a third, so it's up to you whether you want it. It's not many components you're adding to it, but the components are visible. So I would have liked the photo etch set to have come with this, to be honest, but hey ho, still a nice kit for what it is. The canopy, nice and clear, simple to mask, one piece. Take care over it. It's like I like it as it is. Tiny little bit of a sprue attachment from the front, but as I say, it didn't come on the sprue, so it needs a little bit clean up. But you know, you've got a big cockpit on a small aircraft. A lot is visible here, so that needs to be looked after. The decals which came in. Now, I would have liked some red decals. For this complex trailing edge patch, because they seem to give you these silver decals for this one. Just that could have been done, but maybe. It's not excessively difficult to mask, but you're really going to have to give some thought to your masking set on this. I like the big water aviation markings. It's kind of like sports car markings, but for an aircraft, or racing car markings for an aircraft. There is the silver scheme for the blue aircraft, and the long fuselage pinstripes as well. With this one, I think you're going to have to really leave the tail surfaces off. Paint them first, put the decals on, then apply the tail surfaces. So really not seeing anything here that's cause for concern. I do like sports and aerobatic aircraft. And I experienced with other Brengun kits that decals are pretty good. So a lot to enjoy here, a lot to look forward to building, and a nice simple aircraft that, you know, this is going to go on the Pure Flight Facebook group. This is flying for the sheer pleasure and joy of flying. And as I said, remarked earlier, you can see here those attitude indicators on the wingtips, but that come as photo. You have to buy separate photo etch sets for those. So whether you go for them or not is another matter. There we are. The Extra 300 L330 LC by Brengun in 1/72 scale.